Something happened in September that shook the very foundations of the American legal system and redefined what it means to own, carry, and defend yourself with a firearm. This was not a minor adjustment, not a technical interpretation hidden in the fine print of a dusty law book, but a seismic court ruling that tore through decades of precedent and exposed deep fractures in how the Second Amendment is understood and applied across the nation. Millions of citizens who believed they knew the limits of their rights woke up to discover that those boundaries have been redrawn overnight. And from the smoke and confusion, 10 new rules emerged. Rules that every single gun owner must know. Rules that will dictate not only where and how you can carry, but also who may qualify to carry at all, how the government will track firearms, and how courts may retroactively strip or restore rights that were once considered untouchable. To understand the magnitude of this change, we need to remember the legal earthquake caused by the Supreme Court in 2022 with the Bruen case, when the court declared that any restriction on gun rights must be judged against the historical tradition of firearm regulation in America. That ruling killed the old balancing test that allowed states to justify restrictions for public safety reasons, and instead forced them to prove that modern restrictions have direct roots in laws from the 18th or 19th centuries. It was a decision that unleashed chaos in the courts, with states scrambling to defend bans on carrying in public, licensing systems, and restrictions on accessories like high-capacity magazines or silencers. Fast forward to September, and the legal battles triggered by Bruen finally converged into a new and even more explosive ruling, one that not only reaffirmed Bruen's historical test, but expanded it, stripping down long-standing laws, opening new loopholes, and handing down a set of rules that many call the Ten Commandments of modern gun ownership, while critics warn that they are nothing less than a recipe for disorder, danger, and political turmoil. Before I dive into these 10 rules, I need you to hit that subscribe button and drop a like right now, because YouTube's algorithm will not deliver content like this unless you engage, and subscribing isn't just a click, it is your signal to the platform that you want access to information others would rather silence. If you want to support this channel even further, you can use the super thanks option to help us keep producing these deep breakdowns. But if you can't, no problem, just leave a comment telling me which of the new rules shocked you the most. Every single comment boosts this message and helps it reach more people who need to hear the truth. And make sure you stay until the very end, because the last revelation will leave you stunned and questioning everything you thought you knew about gun rights in America. The September ruling did not appear out of thin air. It built on a series of controversial cases in the past 2 years. In Florida, a court of appeals declared that the decades-old prohibition on open carry violated the Second Amendment, throwing the state into legal chaos as citizens, law enforcement, and businesses scrambled to understand what was now permitted. Hospitals, schools, and bars remain exceptions. But the general ban collapsed, effectively legalizing open carry statewide, even as state officials argued over enforcement. Meanwhile, in New Jersey, a federal appeals court upheld much of that state's sensitive places law, which bans guns in parks, beaches, libraries, arenas, and more, ruling that such restrictions do have historical analogs and can survive Bruen's test, meaning that depending on where you live, carrying a firearm in public may now be either more free than ever or more restricted than you imagined. In Washington, the Department of Justice proposed a rule to restore firearm rights to certain individuals who had been barred due to past convictions. If they meet new historical criteria, this could allow thousands to petition for reinstatement of rights. In another legal front, the Supreme Court ruled in Bondi v. Vanderstock that ghost gun kits can indeed be regulated as firearms under the Gun Control Act, forcing sellers to comply with licensing and serialization rules. At the same time, in United States v. Rahimi, the court permitted the government to temporarily disarm individuals under restraining orders for domestic violence, provided the restrictions are consistent with historical patterns. These cases set the stage for the September decision, which drew together threads of all of them and produced 10 rules that are now reshaping the gun landscape. So let's break them down one by one. Rule number 10, the broadest of all, is the expansion of open carry rights. States like Florida have seen old prohibitions fall, making it legal to carry firearms openly in public spaces, though with some exceptions still under dispute. Rule number 9 is the reclassification of sensitive places. States must now prove with historical examples why a place like a school, a stadium, or a subway is considered sensitive, otherwise bans may collapse in court. Rule number 8 is targeted suspension for credible threats. As affirmed in Rahimi, courts can temporarily strip individuals of firearm rights if they present a real risk, but the government must justify the restriction with due process and historical precedent. Rule number 7 concerns ghost guns, kits that allow people to build untraceable firearms at home. These will now be treated as firearms under federal law, requiring serial numbers, background checks, and dealer licensing. Rule number 6 is the restoration path. For the excluded, people who lost their rights due to convictions may now petition for reinstatement under strict historical standards, meaning that what was once a lifetime ban may now be reversible. Rule number 5 involves stricter documentation for transportation. Individuals moving firearms across jurisdictions may face requirements for insurance, proof of route, and secure storage, creating new burdens even for lawful owners. Rule number 4 is the persistence of state-level resistance. Some states will cling to older restrictions and fight battles in court, meaning rules differ drastically across state lines. Rule number 3 is the strengthening of federal oversight. Federal bans on certain weapons like automatic rifles or silencers may now be defended using the same historical test, ensuring their survival despite local challenges. Rule number 2 is the shifting burden onto states. Every restriction must now be justified historically, pushing states to rewrite or repeal entire sections of their codes. And finally, rule number 1, the most shocking and disruptive of all, is retroactive judicial review. Courts may revisit permits, licenses, and carry authorizations issued years ago and declare them invalid under the new framework, forcing gun owners to reapply or risk prosecution. This rule has the potential to strip legality from people who believe they were fully compliant with the law. These 10 rules together form a web of contradictions. On one hand, gun rights advocates celebrate what they see as a restoration of freedom, with open carry permitted, lifetime bans reversed, and ghost gun regulation finally clarified. On the other hand, critics argue that more guns in public spaces, less clarity in enforcement, and retroactive invalidations will create dangerous uncertainty. Police officers in Florida have already warned they don't know how to enforce conflicting statutes. Prosecutors in New Jersey are bracing for waves of lawsuits against the sensitive place designations, and legal scholars fear that the retroactive rule could flood the courts with appeals and challenges, all while ordinary citizens remain confused about what is legal today and what might be struck down tomorrow. The truth is that this ruling did not create clarity. It created fragmentation, where your rights depend not only on what state you live in, but also on which court district you fall under. And until the Supreme Court steps in again to unify the standard, the patchwork will only grow. So what does this mean for you, the gun owner, the citizen, the observer? It means that your rights are no longer fixed but fluid. They're subject to historical interpretation, shifting political winds, and unpredictable court rulings. It means you could wake up tomorrow with more freedom than you imagined or less than you thought you had. It means the battle over the Second Amendment is far from over, and every case that rises to the courts could redraw the lines once again. And that is why you need to stay informed, because ignorance of these changes could cost you your freedom. That's why I need you, right now, to subscribe to this channel, hit the like button, and turn on notifications, because YouTube does not promote content like this unless you tell the algorithm that you want it. Your subscription is a signal, your like is an amplifier, and your comment is a weapon against silence. If you can support with a super thanks, you'll help me continue digging through court documents, legal analysis, and expert commentary to bring you the truth. But if you can't, simply drop a comment below telling me which of the 10 rules shocked you the most. Every comment multiplies the reach of this message. And believe me, you'll want to be here for the next video because the revelations are only going to get darker and deeper. And as promised, if you stay until the very end, here it is, the final shocking truth. under the September ruling. Retroactive judicial review means that permits you thought were ironclad could be voided tomorrow, licenses you trusted could be revoked, and rights you relied on could be erased. The system has left millions exposed to legal uncertainty, and that is the bombshell that no one in the mainstream wants you to understand, because it calls into question not only your rights, but the entire stability of constitutional law itself. So don't forget to subscribe, like, and leave your comment about what shocked you most about this decision, and I'll see you in the next video.